Joseph James DeAngelo appeared for the first time as a defendant in a California courtroom today. The 72-year-old former police officer is accused of being the Golden State Killer, responsible for 13 murders and dozens of sexual assaults in the 1970s and 80s. Those crimes were unspeakably violent, so DNA was left behind. But as Kim Brunhuber explains, the match investigators were looking for had to wait for a more modern database to emerge.
Cracking a case that had gone cold for more than 40 years was always going to take something new, something special. Over the last decade or so, millions of Canadians and Americans have mailed in samples of their saliva to companies which analyze their DNA and help them trace their family tree. Few users ever suspected their spittle could be used to find criminals.
This was an amazing retirement gift for me.
Investigator Paul Holes spent more than 2 decades trying to track down the so-called Golden State Killer. Then, late last year, a masterstroke. He tapped into an online open-source database called GEDmatch, where people can share their DNA results. Authorities created a fake profile, but the DNA they uploaded to the site was from a sample recovered from a 1980 murder.
GEDmatch then is able to search that profile against the other public profiles that individuals have placed in there and produce literally a simple table that indicates how much DNA that person shares with the profile that I uploaded, and then gives the username and the email address of the person that is matching.
The sample matched several distant relatives of the suspect, but authorities needed a sample from the suspect himself, 72-year-old Joseph James DeAngelo, who was unlikely to simply hand over a swab of his DNA. So they got it on their own.
They did a surveillance, and they waited for him to discard something into the public domain. Once they did that, they could then take that item, whether it was a cigarette butt or a beer can that he drank from or whatever, take it back to the lab and try to generate a profile from that.
They got a match and arrested DeAngelo.
I believe very strongly that it's the greatest tool ever given to law enforcement.
But for American users of these DNA kits, the thought of police sifting through their genes is potentially discomforting. Most sites don't divulge customers' data to police unless they have a court order, but they admit there is no guarantee of privacy. Kim Brunhuber, CBC News, Los Angeles.
So to be clear, as Kim said, the website where police found the match is open source. So that means that people had voluntarily and publicly shared their DNA profiles. That isn't the case with kit testing companies like 23andMe. Now, GEDmatch says it had no idea police were using its open source website this way. In a statement, the company says, while the database was created for genealogical research, it's important that GEDmatch participants understand the possible uses of their DNA, including identification of relatives who have committed crimes or were victims of crimes. It went on to say if you're worried about the use of your information, don't upload it or delete your account.